I just say a lot of, especially women, their children grow up, so they, they want to start their own business, or people they retired. Okay. So right now, a lot of people they start their own business. So either find something you're good at, or you like to do. You have to find something you like to do. Okay. A lot of people ask me, say, what kind of business can make money right now? I say, nobody knows. Okay? Nobody knows. Maybe today a business actually is a good business. Maybe right now the world's changing so rapidly. Okay, so you have to find something you really like to do. Number two, or something you're good at. You're good at something. Okay, and what's the good business idea? You go to your community. You find there's a gap. Okay, you find there's a gap. Something is missing in your community. You can solve a problem. For example, so many seniors in Flushing right now. Maybe they need special assistance. Or you can improve people's life. Okay? Or make people happy like Disney World. Actually, we don't need Disney World, but it's a good business. So something make people happy. For Chinese community, actually, we don't really Hispanic community. They have party all the time, but not Chinese. Okay, so maybe something we need to change for children. A lot of parents, Chinese parents, actually, they are willing to to give fun to their children. Okay, so they're changing, not just go like after school programs. So maybe something missing in the community. Okay, that's a good business. But don't think about money first. If you have a good business, you can help people improve their life. Money will follow. And I think right now, most of the business, the best, you have to find a niche. Okay, all the business already there. Okay, it's difficult to find a new business to start with. Say, I want to start something, nobody have that. Of course, if you have that idea, that's the best. But most of the time, you will find your competitors in the community. Okay? Don't be afraid of competition. Competition is good. If there's no competitors, it means there's no need. Okay? For example, there's one young man, he wants to have a laundromat. Then I asked him, I said, where do you want to have a laundromat? He said, it's in Brooklyn. There's one area, like there's no laundromat within 20 miles. So I say, isn't that, it's a hint that they don't need a laundromat there, okay? Because they don't need that, okay? They don't need a laundromat. So don't be afraid of competition, okay? Go to an area, as long as you can find a niche, something that you're special than your competitor. Okay, that's most important things. I think right now, most of the time, either the quality of your product or services, customer service. Okay, your customer service is most important things for your business right now. Okay, so if you can find something that you can do better than your competitor, for example, Peter Gu Yaming's pharmacy. He make money because he has good customer service. He can mail the medicine for my mother in Taiwan. I experienced that, so I know that good customer service is most important. Okay, so especially I think all of your business are like that. Okay, customer service. You should let people trust you. Okay, especially any business online, you have to win the trust from your customer, okay? Because they don't know you in the beginning. So use social media right now. A lot of people they want to start their own business. That's why I asked you to tell everybody what kind of business you're going to start. A lot of people they don't want to talk about their business. Okay? It's wrong. Okay, that's traditional way. You don't want people know that until you open the store, open your business. But now you should talk to your potential customers before you start the business. We have a success story. Okay, a Mexican restaurant. He used Facebook to let people vote the name of his restaurant and his menu for 2 years before he open his restaurant. So people are waiting for him, and also people like to give suggestion. Okay, they feel they're part of the restaurant. So you talk to your potential customers. Marketing doesn't start until you open grand opening. Okay, so it's totally different from traditional. You can ask questions and let people give you feedback, so you can make the right decision. Don't be afraid that those who criticize you. Actually, those who criticize you, they are the people who will be your customer. If they don't reply to you, they don't give you any feedback, they are not interested in your business or your customer or your product or services. Those who criticize you, actually they need you. That's why they try to communicate with you. Okay, so those are the customers that actually you should retain, or you should try to get them to your business and listen to them. It's very important. Now it's easy to communicate with your customer, potential customer. Okay, we have somebody come. What's your business idea?
Some store like restaurant.
You want to open a restaurant?
Kind of. Yeah, similar.
What kind of restaurant? What kind of food?
Similar like
McDonald's. Oh, you want to get franchise? Oh, okay. But you have to start saving money.
Yeah.
Okay. Franchise. Okay. Franchise actually, in some way, is good. If you don't have that, for example, he never worked in the food industry. He never have that kind of experience. So it's easier just be the franchisee, because it's a whole system. He doesn't have to create something or to explore something. But not in this one. Another PowerPoint actually, government helping franchise. Okay, so maybe some of you would like to just explore that. Government help you. So actually, if you go to a franchisor, okay, they have to provide you 10 previous franchisee. So you can talk to the 10 previous franchisee, find out what's the fact. Okay, so this government want to protect you. I have the information in another slide. Okay, hi. So what kind of business idea do you have?
I'm going to start, not yet.
Okay, what kind of business?
Maybe the internet.
Internet. You want to sell something online?
Yes.
Okay, so it's e-commerce. Okay, so getting started. Okay, number one, be clear about what you want, how many hours. Oh, this is for retiree. Okay, but I think today we have a lot of young people, so I can skip this. Are you ready? Okay. Number one, do you think you're ready to start a business? I just said, we have assessment. Next slide actually have assessment. Ask you a lot of questions. Because now you do business not for fun, okay? Some people say, because my cake is good, everybody likes my cake. I say that's not a good idea, okay? You have to make profits right now, so you have to calculate if you can make profits. Okay? Number two, do you have support from your family, okay? Especially financially, and you will spend a lot of time in the beginning in your business, not with your family, so you need to have support from them. Okay. Number three, you need to be familiar with the industry that you want to start. Okay. From our database, actually, 1/3 of the business cannot survive after 3 years, fail after 3 years. Number one reason is insufficient financing. Number two is insufficient managerial skills. Okay, so that's why SBA want to help you with financing and for the education and training. Okay. Number four, your personality. Okay, you have to deal with different kind of people. a lot of people, they say, I want to have my own business because I don't want to work for my boss. I want to be my own boss. Actually, I told them, I said, you're wrong. After you start your own business, everybody will be your boss. Okay, you have to please your customer. So actually, your personality have mature enough to deal with different kind of people. Your supplier, your customer, you deal with different people. Of course, you can hire a manager or sales, but a lot of supplier or even customer, they want to talk to the owner directly. They don't want to talk to the sales. Okay? So you still have build up your personality to deal with different kind of people. Okay? The number 5, get some training. So we are here. Okay, this is the personal characteristics. Okay, this one we can skip. You can read by yourself. I can send. I will send you the PowerPoint to you if you provide me the email address. Okay, make sure you have email address. Also, I have webinar in Chinese and English, so I will send you the invitation. Actually, in China, anywhere. Right. You can either call in, use telephone or online. Okay, so I just afraid maybe in China they cannot go online. Okay, some limitation. Yes, please. Right. I can send you and you can share with your friend. I hope that everybody can join and share the information. So number 19 is very important. Okay, number 19. Actually, in the beginning, you won't make money from day one. Okay, usually most of the business actually they invest money for the first 6 months. Most of them they get break even after 6 months. Some of them even longer. Okay, so you have to have enough money to support you. You see a lot of the restaurants in Flushing, they close after 6 months, 3 months, 4 months, because they cannot hold there until they start making money. So you need to know how much money you need in the beginning, okay, to support you for that break-even point. Okay. So here is choosing your business idea. Most of you already have some idea, okay, but you have to finalize it, okay. But right now, how to make money, okay, you have to be profitable. So number 1, keep your startup cost low, okay. So right now, use social media. You don't need to spend a lot of money in marketing like before, okay. And if you have iPhone, anybody have iPhone? We have an app, SBA app. They have the startup cost calculator. Okay, just SBA, the app. Then have business plan templates on the app. So that's really good. 2 things very nice for you, and can find a mentor there too. Number 2, consider a home-based business. Okay, so some of the business actually you can start from home, so you don't have to pay the rent. Number 3, the latest technology means uses on internet, okay, social media to do the marketing, okay, and focus on something you like. Okay, and so I have to change that. And did it. Find a mentor, like Ray will speak later. He's a business mentor. You can talk to him, maybe make appointment with him. We have a lot of business advisors. There's, I think here, in the future, I'm arranging a Chinese business advisor will be here once a week. Okay. Do your market research. Very important. Before you jump in, okay, we want you to do the research. Find out who your competitor. Okay, but I have a seminar about marketing, so that one. But now you can go to Small Business Development Center. Actually, the business advisor will be here, so they have a good system can help you to do the research. Okay, tell you how many similar businesses already here, and maybe the education level and the family styles in this area. So that's good information for you to make good decision. Okay. This is for the market research. I will skip this. Some identify, so you know your market. Okay. According to our database, 80% of your income come from 20% of your customers. Those 20% of your customers, they are loyal customers. They come to you maybe every day, every other day, every week. Okay, so if you can secure those 20% of your customers, then you should go for it. Okay, those 20%, other 80%, then maybe they just come once in your life or once in their life. So try to focus. For example, there's one, my friend actually, she started a business to sell online those items for the adopted family. Okay, a lot of American parents adopt children from China. So she has a website. She only do business with them, but she involved all the activities with them, so she know them and they know her. So when they need anything, they will tell her, so she can import that or they can provide that kind of services. So in the beginning, you focus. You have to think about who. For example, a lot of people, they want to open a clothing store. So you have to decide is for what age. Okay, what age for young girls or for everybody or plus size people. So then of course you can expand and you can sell to everybody. But in the beginning you need to have focus. You need to focus on some special groups. Okay. Business plan. The third, I will teach that the third seminar. Today is the first one in English. Okay. I think for Chinese will be this month too. They have a schedule. Next month. Okay. Business plan. So we have one in Chinese and one in English. So I will teach that in detail. But now for you, just it's good for you to think about those questions. This one you can skip that. Business model, okay. This one actually will be in my another topic, how to start a business. So I will tell you pros and cons of different kind of business structure. Then you discuss with your attorney or accountant to make the decision. Okay, I will skip that. Okay, so some business that you can start with little capital, just provide you here, but I will skip this. Okay, just give you some idea. This is something too. So you need money, okay, to start your own business. This is for retirees. For SBA, we have financing, different kind of financing program. Just want to let you know. But you need to have some money invested in your business, no matter what kind of business. Even especially you go to the bank, they will ask you how much you will contribute. Okay, so everybody needs some seed money for your own business. And then SBA have financing for startups, and after you start establish, we have different kind of loan for different purpose. Okay. So those I will explain later. Okay. Here, okay, I can skip this one. Give you homework. Okay, number one, identify a business idea. Okay, you have to make decision. Don't be afraid of failure. Most of the successful business, they learn from failure. Okay, so but don't. Yeah, that's why I say right now it can save you those times or money. Just consult with business advisor, so it can save you a lot of time and problems. Okay. Then number two, you have to think about your customer. Like I mentioned, there's one Romanian lady. She imported red wine. So she only sells to women between 30 and 50. Because she said that she's not just, her purpose is not just sell the wine. She wants to educate the women, why wine is good for them. So she said she wants to start from women between 30 and 50. Okay. Of course, she sells wine to everybody. So this is what I think about. I told you, I mentioned that you have to think about who will be your target customer. Okay. Number three, funding. Okay, think about money or prepare if you need to borrow money. Most of the Chinese business, they don't want to borrow money in the beginning. Actually, that's wrong. We have to change that. You need to borrow money to make money. Okay, if you don't have money. If you have money, of course. But if you need to borrow money in the future, you should borrow money when you have money. Don't wait until you run out of money. Most business, they contact us and say, I use up all my money investment. Now I need money. I say it's too late. Nobody will lend you the money when you don't have money. So when you have money in the bank, that's the time to borrow money. Okay. And right now I have a lot of different kind of program. Actually, it's not like traditional. People say, oh, I don't want to pay the interest. But if you need to borrow money to make more money, okay, those interest actually is nothing. Okay. And the last one, business plan. You need to start writing those ideas on the paper and then discuss with a mentor. Okay, so this is additional assistance. Today I'm not the main speaker. Okay, I just told you I actually have two speakers for you. I will send this one, this PowerPoint for you, and I will have the webinar with you about how to start a business. Okay, so today we have two speakers. The first one actually she's from City. I let her introduce herself. Okay. Because right now affordable health care is very important for small business too, and so you should learn about that. Actually, a lot of people, even I heard so many times and I still don't know the details. So hope that you have a sense of what you should do. Okay.
Everyone, my name is Audrey Joe. I'm the Director of Programs, Outreach and Partnerships for the City of New York Office of Citywide Health Insurance Access, and thank you to Manly for inviting me to speak to you today. So before I get started, I want to know how many of you currently own your own business? None? So you're individuals? No? Two. Okay. So our office is 14 years old, and we work to connect New York City residents and small business to coverage. And we do that mainly through partnerships, like with United States Small Business Administration and other government, community-based, faith-based, and private entities. So today I'm going to give you a quick background of our agency, give you some key facts about healthcare reform, talk to you about the New York State Health Marketplace, and give you key dates and some key references and resources, okay? So our agency is responsible for helping people become self-sufficient, and we have many programs to help people attain self-sufficiency. So we have work programs, we have access to food stamps now called SNAP, cash assistance, and Medicaid, but only for people who are disabled, 65 and older, or visually impaired. So again, our office is the Office of Citywide Health Insurance Access, and we work to ensure that people know about their health insurance options, particularly now through the Affordable Care Act, which provides additional options for people. So we provide information to people in forums like these, as well as through our website, New York City Health Insurance link, through materials that we print. You have some of our materials in your folder. We have fact sheets in 9 languages. We have fact sheets in English, Spanish, Urdu, Bengali, French, Chinese, Korean, Russian, Haitian Creole, and Arabic. So if there are any materials that you would want from us, you can feel free to email me and get those materials. So in your packet, you will see we have information for small businesses as well as individuals. And we have this How to Choose a Health Plan, both in English and Chinese. And any materials that if you see in there, if you want it in Chinese, I can make that available to you. So in addition to talking to people in communities, we also testify in front of the City Council on issues with regard to health insurance. Our office does policy and research with regard to health insurance, and to make sure that we're well informed when we come out and speak to you all in regards to health insurance coverage. So, some key forms about health insurance in New York. So the New York State is responsible for ensuring that both New York City residents and small businesses get access to coverage. It's not the City of New York. The state is taking over administration of Medicaid, so everything now for most people, is being done through the New York State of Health. Has everyone heard of the New York State of Health Marketplace? I hope? No? You've heard of health insurance exchanges? Yes? Okay, that's good. So, and I'll talk more about that. So for individuals, if people were uninsured for any part of 2014, last year, they can face a penalty when they file their 1040 taxes if they didn't have health insurance last year. And I'll talk more about that. Small businesses, that is a business with 2 to 50 employees, are not required to offer coverage. However, if they do offer coverage, they can get tax credits to help pay for the cost of that coverage. Large businesses, that is a business, am I standing in front of the screen? I'm sorry. Large business, a business with 50 to 99 full-time employees. In 2016, they will face a fine if they did not offer coverage to their employees. In 2015, businesses with greater than 100 employees, they will face a fine beginning now if they did not offer coverage to their employees. So again, small businesses are not required by law to offer coverage, but a business with more than 50 employees, they are required to offer health insurance coverage to those employees. Okay, so where do people get health insurance? They get health insurance, they can still buy it directly from the insurer, but now, because of the Affordable Care Act, or also known as Obamacare, people can get coverage in New York through the New York State of Health. That's the new health insurance marketplace, where you can get both public health insurance and private health insurance for individuals, and health insurance for small businesses. So, who can use it? It's mainly for people under the age of 65, businesses with 50 or fewer employees, and most people who have access to job-based coverage are not able to get help paying for coverage through the New York State of Health. It's one application that will allow you to see if you're eligible for both public and private health insurance. You can compare plans, enroll online or by phone, and it's the only place to get help paying for coverage. The only place that you can get help, both small businesses and individuals. So, what does the New York State of Health offer to small business owners? Small business owners can, with regard to health insurance, they can file their paperwork, they can offer their employees a choice of health plans, and again, they can also receive the tax credit. And the New York State of Health will help them calculate their share as well as their employees' share of the premium, bill the employees for them, estimate the potential tax credit, as well as keep all the paperwork, archive all the paperwork with regard to health insurance. The tax credit for small business, however, is limited to 2 years. So if you were to offer your employees health insurance coverage, you will only get help paying for the cost of that coverage for 2 years. So for example, if today you decided you wanted to give your employees coverage through the New York State of Health, if you're a small business, that help to pay for that coverage for your part of the coverage will only last to 2017. For-profit businesses can receive a maximum tax credit of 50% of the cost, and I'm going to show you an example in the next slide. Nonprofits receive a 35% credit for their share of insurance costs. The more employees you have, the fewer tax credits you get. The fewer employees you have, the higher amount of money you get to pay for the cost of coverage. So, what are the general requirements? The general requirements are as follows. You have less than 20 full-time employees, an average salary of $50,000 or less, and the employer must pay 50% of the cost of the coverage for their employees. So for example, if it costs you $10,000 a year to offer coverage to your employees, you would have to pay $5,000, and then you would spread the other $5,000 to the employees. In calculating your wages, you don't include the wage of the owners or family members. So for instance, if it's owned by a couple, a husband and a wife, their salaries, what they pay themselves, or if their children also are part of the business, they would not include that salary. It will only be the salary of employees who are not related to them. The tax credit for nonprofit organizations is refundable, and the tax credit can be carried back 1 year or forward 20 years. So additional information about this is available to the IRS, and you have the website at the bottom of the page. So when an employer, if they currently offer coverage, when they file their taxes, they're going to see different forms now, because health insurance for both individuals as well as small businesses, the questions about health insurance will be included on your, everyone knows what the 1040 is, right? The federal tax form, there are going to be questions about, do you have coverage? Did you offer coverage to your employees? And so there are new forms that people have to fill out. For small businesses, it will be IRS Form 8941, as well as Form 99T for nonprofits. So the tax credit, again, is available on a sliding scale. So for example, if an employer has 10 full-time employees at an average wage of $25,000, that owner is eligible for the full tax credit to pay for their share of the health insurance coverage. So again, that just reiterates, the fewer employees you have, the more help you get. So this is an example, a simplified example, but an example nevertheless. So Laura has a nail salon with 5 full-time employees and an average wage of $20,000 a year. Laura spent $30,000 on health insurance for her employees in 2014. It looks like Laura may be eligible for small business tax credit. Why may she be eligible? Because she has fewer than 25 employees making less than $50,000. How can Laura calculate the small business tax credit? So the amount of credit depends on the number of employees and their wages. So again, businesses with less than 10 employees get the highest credit, 50%. Since Laura only has 5 full-time employees and she paid $30,000 for their health insurance costs, she's going to get a tax credit of $15,000. Okay? So, any questions? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. So if an employer has 25 employees and they make $50,000 or more, there's no credit. So the credit goes away the more employees you have. So if an employer has 25 employees with average wages of $50,000 or more, they're not eligible for the tax credit. So now I've talked about small businesses. If there aren't any questions, I will move on to individuals and sole proprietors.
Yes.
Okay, now I have some questions.
Come,
You, then you. Yes.
How come when you have more employees, you have less credit?
Because the government will like to support those smaller businesses. So they feel that if a business is larger, that means they're doing better because they're able to employ more people. So they're really geared toward supporting really small businesses. Yes, second question.
Yes, but how about your employees are less than 25, but the average wages is more than 50,000?
They're not eligible for, the employer is not eligible for a tax credit. Now, if you're asking, can the employee go on the small business, on the New York State of Health and get insurance? Yes. Will that employee who makes $50,000 get tax credits? No. Because for the individual side, which I'll discuss after his question, they can earn up to like $46,000 and get help. After that, there's no more help. So if you make if you're an individual, you make more than $46,000, the government does not help you pay for the cost of health insurance. But I'll go more into that. Yes, sir.
So what does the tax credit do to you?
So what does the tax credit, how does it work?
Yeah.
Okay. So for a small business you're asking, or for an individual?
Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a little bit of difference. So let's take the example of the small business. So for the small business, the for-profit, so there are two examples, for-profit and non-for-profit, right? So a for-profit business, that $15,000 goes to reduce their tax liability. So for instance, if their taxes is $15,000 and their tax credit is $15,000, then it's wiped, it's zero. But it's for-profit business, it's non-refundable. So they'll never get any of that money back, but it just reduces their tax liability. That's different for nonprofit business. For a nonprofit business, if their tax credit, if they pay $15,000, if they pay $30,000, they get 35% of that. The money that's left over is refundable to them. So let's say their tax credit was $15,000, but their tax liability is $10,000. There's $5,000 left. They get that back. It's refundable. But for a for-profit business, it's not refundable. It only reduces the tax liability. Okay? Does it make sense? Okay, great. So now I'm going to move on to individuals. And I hope I don't fall. All right, so what does the New York State of Health offer sole props and individuals, and why a sole proprietor is someone who by themselves own their business? Before the Affordable Care Act, sole proprietors would be able to buy coverage in a special market. They had coverage just for sole proprietors. That no longer is the case. A sole proprietor who owns his or her own business is considered an individual for health insurance purposes, okay? So, an individual or sole proprietor can go get coverage directly through the New York State of Health by themselves, or they can get navigators, certified application counselors, or facilitated enrollers. These are people who are authorized by the state to help people enroll. They can also call the phone number, which I'll give you later, to help enroll. Individuals can compare health insurance plans side by side. They can also receive a tax credit to help pay for the cost of insurance, and I will show you how that works. Okay, so all plans that are sold both to individuals and small businesses must have these 10 benefits. I won't go through all of them, but some key benefits are mental health and substance abuse services, prescription drug coverage, as well as vision and oral care for children. All health insurance plans sold by the insurers directly or through the New York State of Health must contain these benefits. And that was not always the case. So before there were plans that you could buy before the Affordable Care Act that did not cover prescription drugs, and you would have to pay for those out of pocket. So when someone goes on the New York State of Health, I think this is out of order. So I'm going to start with this slide here. Okay. When someone goes to the New York State of Health, they're going to see coverage, and they're going to see Medicaid, they're going to see Child Health Plus, and they're going to see private health insurance. So everyone knows what Medicaid is, right? Yes? Child Health Plus is another public health insurance program only for children, regardless of immigration status. So Child Health Plus is for children under 19, whether they're documented or undocumented. And when someone is undocumented, what I mean by that is their visa, they overstayed their visa. So they can get Child Health Plus regardless of their immigration status. And they can also, someone can also get private health insurance. So when you go to the marketplace, you're seeing both Medicaid, Child Health Plus, and private health insurance. A person who is single can earn up to $16,105 and still get Medicaid. A single adult, that's what your question was about tax credit. So that example I gave about the employee who makes $50,000, that person would not be able to get a tax credit through the marketplace. You have to earn less than $46,680 to get help paying for the cost of coverage from the government. Okay? Makes sense? And I'm only going through the single people. They're couples, families, 4, 5, 6, they're different family size. The people who earn, a single person who earns under $29,175, in addition to getting help paying for the monthly cost of the premium, they can also get help paying for deductibles, co-payments, like when you go to see the doctor, you may have a $10 or $15 co-payment, they get help for that, and they also get help for co-insurance. So, when a person goes to the marketplace, they're looking at coverage in four types of coverage: platinum coverage, gold, silver, and bronze. So what's the most expensive metal up there? Does anybody know? Which one? What's the most expensive metal? Platinum, that's correct. Platinum is the most expensive metal. And so, in this case, for health insurance, the same holds true. That is the most expensive plan that you can buy. However, the key to that is, it's also the plan, if you buy a plan that's a platinum plan, you pay lower out-of-pocket expenses. So that means when you go to the doctor, your copay will be less, your co-insurance will be less, and your deductible will be less. The bronze plan, the cheapest metal, is also the cheapest health insurance plan. And that plan has a lower monthly premium but higher out-of-pocket expenses. So you'll have a higher copay, a higher deductible, and higher co-insurance. So some people may go to the marketplace and say, oh, I just want the cheapest plan, which will be a bronze plan. However, they shouldn't just think about cost. They should think about how often they go to the doctor. If you're somewhat healthy and only go to the doctor once a year, a bronze plan may be best for you because your primary care visit is covered. You only have to pay your copay. However, let's say you get a bronze plan and your doctor, you go to the doctor, your first visit, your copay is $30, that's fine. But he says, you know what? You need to come back in 2 weeks. Now, with the bronze plan, you have to pay that doctor's visit until you reach your deductible. So your deductible now, I think it's around $3,000, don't quote me. So that means his doctor visit in 2 weeks is $150. You have to pay that $150 till you reach your deductible of $3,000. For the platinum plan, if you chose that plan, your deductible could be less than $1,000 or it could be $0, depending on the plan you choose. So if someone goes to the doctor 10 times, 20 times a year, they may not want a bronze plan because they have to meet their deductible before the insurance starts to pay. The platinum plan has a lower deductible, so their care will be paid for. So if you're healthy, you don't go to the doctor often, a bronze or silver plan may work for you. But if you have a sickness, if you go to the doctor frequently, a platinum plan may work better for you. Even though the monthly premium is more expensive, it will cost you fewer dollars in the long run. Questions? Yes.
You know, some people have the income is limited, so cannot affordable for planning. Mm-hmm. So I just want a bronze.
Yes.
But the bronze is higher out of cost.
Cost. Right.
How to fix this?
How to fix this?
Yeah, you know?
I would say something, but there are other. There's no way to fix it in the current system that we currently have. I will say that.
No, but you heard about supplemental medical insurance?
Supplemental. In this case, supplemental medical insurance may not help. For people who are over 65, those are the people who typically have supplemental medical insurance. So yes, it does help them in that respect. I don't know, and I'm not an expert on supplemental medical insurance, how it would help these people. Okay.
Yeah, I applied, you know.
Okay.
I do this business.
Okay. Oh, Aflac. Okay, very good. So that may be a way to help people supplement their coverage. But there are other ways, more global ways to fix this issue, and maybe in time our health system will catch up will change, I should say. So again, the platinum plan is the highest premium, lowest out-of-pocket cost. The bronze plan is the cheapest monthly premium, highest out-of-pocket cost. Okay. So now this is Manhattan cost for a single person. Queens, the difference is maybe $1 or so difference. So these are, I wanted to give you an idea of the premiums with tax credits. So if you go to the marketplace, and it depends on your income. So I'm going to focus on the income that says $29,175. Does everyone see that? So if your income is $29,175, you can find a bronze plan for $176. That's in the middle. There are plans that are cheaper than that and plans that are more expensive than that. You can also find a platinum plan for $414 if you make that amount of money. If your income is between $16,000 and $29,175, you must choose a silver plan if you want extra help. So if you choose a silver plan, you can, in addition to getting help with the monthly premiums, you'll get help paying for co-payments, deductibles, and co-insurance. In that case, your silver plan will act more like a platinum plan. But that only goes for people who make up to $29,175. They get additional help. Okay? But again, they must choose a silver plan. Well, let me go back. Did anyone have a question about that? Does that make sense? And people look at these premiums and say they're really high. Let me see if I have a slide. Where is this? Oh, I know. So there used to be in here a slide that showed, so even though these premiums may look high, before the Affordable Care Act, a person, I'm going to give you an example once I go back to this slide. A person, let's say, could find a plan. So the highest plan here is $589, the platinum plan. Before the Affordable Care Act, those plans at that level would cost anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 a month. So the price has been reduced. Some people say this is still unaffordable. Affordability, of course, is a relative term, but it has reduced the cost of coverage if you don't have coverage from your employer, and not all people do. So these are just examples of things you have in your folder, how to pick a plan, in both English and in Chinese. I should say Mandarin. Just I want to talk a little bit about Medicaid. So as I said before, if you're already Medicaid, people can get Medicaid through the marketplace if they're under 65. If they got Medicaid through HRA, they're going to continue to get renewals to renew their coverage from HRA. People who are blind, also known as visually impaired, 65 or older or disabled, will go to HRA to get Medicaid. If your individual is under 65, they have to go to the marketplace, the New York State of Health, to get health insurance coverage. So, what the Affordable Care Act did not do, it did not address coverage for undocumented individuals, but New York State has safety net services in place for people who may have overstayed their visa. So a child under 19 is eligible for Child Health Plus regardless of immigration status. Medicaid for pregnant women is available regardless of their immigration status, as well as Medicaid for the treatment of an emergency medical condition. Right now, someone who is undocumented, does not have an emergency medical condition, can go to the New York State of Health, get pre-certified for Medicaid when they have that emergency medical condition. For example, I'm undocumented. I go to the marketplace now in January. I don't have an emergency medical condition. I don't have a heart attack. I'm not about to have a baby. Nothing's wrong with me. But I get the Medicaid now, but it gets turned on if I have an emergency medical, if I have a heart attack, then the Medicaid gets activated. But I can go and get pre-certified, get my card, and be prepared in case I have an emergency. So that's available now through the New York State of Health. Also, the city still has hospitals, HHC, and other private hospitals that offer care on a sliding fee scale, and there are also community health centers like Charles B. Wayne that offer care on a sliding fee scale depending on your income. Questions before I continue? Okay, so now the not so nice part. So, penalties and taxes. So, this is 2015. So by April 15th, we all must file, who are required to file, must file our taxes. And when we do so, for any part of 2014, if we're required to file taxes and we don't have an exemption, which I'll talk about, we have to pay a penalty. So for instance, the penalty is $95 or 1% of income, whichever is higher. So if I was uninsured all of 2014, I may have to pay $95 in the penalty or more. So, for example, if my refund is $1,000 and I have to pay a penalty of $95 because I didn't have coverage, then my refund will be $905. So your refund is reduced by your penalty. Now, the $95 is the cheapest penalty. It's or 1% of income. So for instance, if I make $30,000, they subtract $10,000, my penalty is based on $20,000, and 1% of $20,000 is $200. So depending on my income, my penalty can be cheap, $95, or it could be $200 or more, depending on my income. So the penalty depends on your income, and it also depends on how many months you were uninsured in 2014. So if you were uninsured 6 months, then the penalty is 1/2 of $95, $47.50, or 1/2 of that $200 in that example, which would be $100. So the penalty depends on, first, your income, and second, how many months you were uninsured in 2014. And the penalty goes up. This for 2016, it will be $325, and for 2016, it will be $695, or 2.5% of income, whichever is higher. Yes, ma'am?
How does the government know that an individual is uninsured?
Very good question. Excellent question. So her question is, how does the government know whether we're uninsured or not? Okay, 2 ways. One, if you're on Medicaid, they can look at those scrolls to tell if you have insurance. It's called querying the database to figure out people who have Medicaid. That's quite easy. The other part is private companies, large companies, all companies are required to report whether they cover their employees. So they're required to send that information to the U.S. Department of Labor. And so there's a database of who has coverage and who hasn't. They query that database, and that's how they see if you're covered or not. And they also ask you if you're covered. So they have several ways. So if you lie on a federal form, it's, that's illegal. So they're asking you, they're checking what your employer says, and if you're self-employed, and you got coverage through an insurer or the marketplace, they can find out that information. So they're querying databases. So I should say that in the beginning. When you go to the marketplace, you're not required to show any documentation. You're not required to show proof of identity, proof of income, proof of anything unless the government can't verify it. So how do they verify who you are and all those things? They check, one, Experian, which is a credit reporting system. Not everybody has credit, so maybe everybody won't be identity proof because they don't have credit cards. So if you are identity proof through Experian, then you don't do anything else. However, for some reason, if you don't have credit cards, or if you're undocumented, then they ask you then to upload your passport or upload proof of identity. For your wages, they query another database. They query the IRS, or they query the wage reporting system. If you're self-employed, they rely on you to self-report your income, or they also check the IRS. So they're querying databases to verify your information. So you don't have to supply any documentation unless it does not match up with what they have. Or you're undocumented, you don't have any documentation, then they will ask you to upload proof who you are. Okay? Any other questions? I only have 2 more slides. Additional question? Is everything clear? Okay. So, I talked about the penalty. However, there are some people who are exempted from this penalty, and these are people who have been uninsured for less than 3 months. You earn too little to pay taxes, so if you're single, you earn less than $10,000, you're not required to file taxes. You cannot find affordable coverage. That means the coverage is too expensive. It's more than 8% of your income. You have a hardship. You have a religious objection, and that's held by the Social Security Administration. You're incarcerated. You're in jail. You reside, outside the United States. You're undocumented. You're not required to have coverage. You're American Indian or Alaskan Native. If you have a hardship, so who decides what's a hardship? It's the federal government. So there's, how do you apply for a hardship? There's a website you go on to, and you write a story. You say, whatever your circumstances are, and the federal government decides whether you have a hardship or not and can't afford to pay for coverage. You should apply as soon as possible for an exemption, and you can apply for all the exemptions that apply to you. So you don't just have to apply for one exemption. You can apply for many. If you're undocumented, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to apply for the exemption. So some key dates in 2015. A business with greater than 100 employees have to pay a penalty if they don't offer coverage. February 15th, which is coming in 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks. That's the end of open enrollment for private health insurance. So if you don't get coverage by February 15th, then you may not be able to. That's for private coverage. For Medicaid and Child Health Plus, you can, or for small businesses to get coverage for their employees, that happens 365 days a year, no time limit. So again, if you want private coverage, you have to do it by February 15th, or have a qualifying event. Have a baby, get married, move to another state, lose your job, get divorced. Those things give you the ability to get coverage. April 15th, pay penalty to the IRS for any month not insured in 2014. And October 15th is the next proposed open enrollment period. Question? Okay, so there's some people who already have coverage to the marketplace. If they already have coverage to the marketplace, they should be getting something from the marketplace that says, congratulations, we've automatically enrolled you in your plan or a similar plan. You don't have to do anything. But you can always go into the marketplace and change your plan if you want to. Some people may not be able to be automatically enrolled. They'll get a letter that says, we're not able to verify your information. Please log on to the New York State of Health to update your information. And some people may get a letter stating your health insurance plan is no longer available. Please choose another plan. These are some business and tax resources for businesses some information I talked about. You can look at how Affordable Care works with the U.S. Department of Labor. Remember somebody asked a question about how does the government know if you have insurance. That's available there. Information on the IRS website. They're an integral part of the Affordable Care Act. U.S. Small Business Administration. That's a link to Manly's agency, as well as the New York City Department of Small Business Services, has a lot of resources for small businesses. This is other websites, other places to get information, and the New York State of Health. Their phone number is there, 1-855-355-5777. If you have any questions with regard to getting health insurance, you can get it there.
I'm going to talk about first what I call common questions. I have found that I like to ask my audience what their businesses are. I found that many people don't like to talk about their business in public. So all I do is I ask you to raise your hand if you have a question anywhere along the line, and we'll talk about it. The first thing is what we call legal identities. You are not required, I repeat, you are not required to get any legal identity. A legal identity is something set up by each state, it's not federal, each state to shield you from going into business. You all know the problem of, quote, liability. You have a retail store and somebody comes in and trips and sues you, they can take away everything that you own. So you can form a legal identity to shield you. I'll talk about the different ones. The first one is what we call sole proprietorship. This really just allows you to use a fictitious name. And you can get that by going to the instructions in there, by going to a place in City Hall, paying something like $120, and you now have a name that you can use to open a bank account. If you attempt to open a bank account with a name that is not your own, the bank will give it. So that's the sole proprietorship. It gives you no legal protection. I want to repeat, it gives you no legal protection. What it does do is allow you to use this name for a bank account, for your invoicing, for doing business. However, you are still subject to lawsuit. The next step is a partnership. Regularly, we have people come in and they want to be partners. Your spouse is your partner. You do not have a partner in business. It's a dictatorship. You're the boss, and under no circumstances will you ever give up that position, because as a minority in a business, you basically have no legal rights. The boss is somebody who, I'm going to the next step, a corporation. Corporation is the first step in getting a legal identity in New York State. Beware of what we call an LLC, Limited Liability Corporation. Various people would tell you to do it. It's something that'll cost you a few $1,000s, and they like the name Limited Liability. You can get a New York State corporation. You can file for it yourself for a couple of $100. You go on newyorkstate.org/gov, and it'll show you how to form a corporation. In that corporation is designed to have, you start off with a minimum of 100 shares. And we value them at what we call par value, $1 a piece. Whoever owns 51% of the shares of the corporation is king, is dictator. If you have 49% of the stock, you might as well go to Coney Island. You have no power, no rights, no nothing. So beware of, quote, partnerships or being under 51%. You do not need an LLC. An LLC, and I won't go into why it's used, an LLC will cost you a few $1,000s. They don't tell you that. But you have to pay for advertising. Some of us think that the whole law was passed by the newspaper publishers. So you'll spend $2,000 in advertising, LegalZoom or any of these others. Everybody recommend it because they can make a lot of money with it. You do not need it. Repeat, you do not need it. It might cause you more trouble. What we look at in startups is, how do we start this business? We all believe we're going to be a wonderful success, which is good. By the way, this is a wonderful country. You do not bribe anybody. You do not pay anybody. Make sure of that. You can get into a lot of trouble. There is no requirement, either culturally, ethically, or any other reason, to pay anybody what we call a bribe to get what you want done. There are a few businesses that do require licensing, such as a restaurant, where you have to take special courses. There are certain regulations regarding it. We can advise you as to which businesses do require licensing, but most businesses do not. All they require is you put in some money. And you have to be sure you want to put in the money. So I'm past legal identity, sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation. Sub-S you've heard about. Sub-S is an Internal Revenue Service election, it's called. And what that says is, for small companies, what will happen is the corporation will pay no taxes on their profits, but the profits will flow through the corporation to the individual stockholders. And they have to add that profit onto their income tax. It's treated as personal, as profit or loss. They can take either one. All these things, there is one basic business principle that overreaches all of them. It's called the KISS principle. Anybody know what the KISS principle is? Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it. Just keep it nice and simple. If it starts to get complicated and you don't understand it, stay away from it. You should understand everything about this is very simple. It's only one thing that's complicated, and that's getting customers, and we'll talk about that later. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have an accountant tell me that I own a company which is by myself, but I went to the accountant and told me that, well, I'm going to put you as a C corporation. And then
That is, excuse me, that is the New York State Corporation. It's the simplest version.
Okay.
What's called the C Corporation.
But then later on, she say, once you get more business, make more money, I put you at an S corporation. So what does that mean?
Well, what it means, if you're a little company and you're only making a little bit of profit or loss, you don't want to go to the extra expense of filing a separate income tax form. The counselor's right. I think I wouldn't listen to anybody starting a business. Just go ahead and get customers and see if you're going to, one, if you're going to like it. That's perhaps the most important reason for going into business. I used to have hair. It's hard work, and I will mention something to you which people don't realize. It's lonely running a business. You are questioned every day, all day long, to make decisions, and you don't know the answers. But you must give an answer. And you can't speak to anybody about your problems, because unless you've run a business, you don't understand the pressures, the tensions. So, did I answer your question? For the moment, a type C, leave it alone. You don't have to do anything else. As time goes on, we can make a lot of changes. I want to start your business with the cheapest amount of money that you can. Believe it or not, over 50% of the startup businesses fail the first year.
Scary.
It is scary, but go ahead and do it.
So even if you're a one-man company, you can still choose the sole prop or the C corporation?
Sole proprietorship gives you no legal shielding. The interesting thing is, do you own any assets? Do you own any real estate, stocks, bonds, things of that nature? Then you don't have to worry about shielding your assets because you don't have any. This is typical. You can start with a sole proprietorship which costs you $120.
But how about a partnership?
I don't know what a partnership is. I know what it is in marriage. But in business, I want to repeat, there's a dictatorship. There's no equality. If the dictator is right, the business succeeds. If the dictator is wrong, the business fails. Welcome. All I can recommend to you is do not go into business with less than, as quote, a partnership, because you have no rights. You're dealing with somebody who at the moment may be wonderful and promise you next week we're going to be on the moon. But if things go bad, you have no rights whatsoever. Patents or federal ID and tax numbers. You have to get a legal identity tax number. When you start as a sole proprietorship, that's your social security number. That's all. When you become a corporation, you have to get a federal ID tax number which is used all over. I won't go into how you do it. It's part of the paperwork that you will see how to do it. It's not complicated, but you need it to open a bank account, to file your tax return, to do all types of legal things. Patents, trademarks, and copyrights. I can't tell you how many people have come in starting a business where they have dreamed up this wonderful name. And as far as they're concerned, they want to know, how do I protect the name? If you got a lot of money, you can protect it. The trademark, number one, has to be used in interstate commerce. You have to show an invoice. You have to show its use. But more important than that, you've got to protect it. The government will give you this, quote, exclusive, but if somebody else decides to use it, the government never heard of you. You've got to take this person to court. Legal attorneys for this type of thing are $500 an hour. The word motel, which you all know, was a copywritten name. Motel. The guy, oh, it's a wonderful name. It was such a wonderful name that everybody started to use it. And the guy had to keep taking all these people to court, and he went broke. You want to use the word motel, which is copywritten? Go ahead and use it. Nobody can stop you. It is only good in the United States. Each country has their own laws regarding patents and copyrights. Any of you interested in patents?
Yes.
Okay, we got a problem.
Yeah, I know. It's a big problem.
It's an expensive problem. It's one of the few things that you cannot do yourself. The patent is designed, you must protect it, just like a copyright. In order to protect it, you've got to hire a patent attorney. I'm not saying, well, let's go to filing for the patent. You can go to New York City Civil Library, SIBL Library, which is Madison Avenue and 34th Street. And the first thing you have to do is look up a government classification of your idea, your invention. They're a wonderful organization, and you can find it. Then you can do a preliminary patent search. You cannot get a patent if this idea was public information at any time in past history. For instance, I have 9 patents. By the way, I've never made a nickel on any of them. It's an ego trip. And I made a patent application for, it so happens, a certain type of rocket explosive. And the patent office rejected this. They showed me a picture of the firing on Fort Sumter during the Civil War. And it said it anticipated my idea, so I couldn't get it. The patent basically is a defensive weapon. What I recommend people who are interested in patents or trademarks, first, trademark. The trademark, let me say, is a reminder so that when somebody sees this, they say, oh yes, I know that company, I'm interested. The classic example was the Kodak film yellow box. They actually copyrighted that yellow box. People looking at that yellow box would say, oh, that's Kodak film. So, the only purpose of a trademark is you have expanded, you publicize that trademark so that when people walk into a store or see it somewhere, they say, oh, that's such and such a company. When you're starting, your wonderful trademark is worth nothing because it won't stand by itself. This is a little am I explaining this clearly enough? Everybody understand what I'm saying? I would recommend you keep it in mind that when you're starting up, a trademark or a patent will only cause you trouble. You can't afford a patent. To get a patent, really, you spend $1,500. Oh, by the way, beware. As soon as you start talking on about patents, all the sharks will come out. And all the sharks will say, I can help you market this thing, pay me $500, $1,000, $5,000. They're all crooks. They're absolute crooks. The only person or company you can trust in this patent business are patent attorneys who say, I will work with your patent, don't ask me to sell it. I advise you to be very careful because it's very tempting. So, you say, okay, I want to get a patent. The first step is to do a patent search. You don't do it, you can do a preliminary, but really you've got to pay somebody to do a patent search. Not somebody, a patent attorney. That's somewhere between $1,500 and $3,000. You're not going to get it for less. So, a couple of months go by, and he says, whoopee! I don't see that there's any conflict. Now, he won't say I can get you a patent. He'll say it's worth a crack of your money. Now you're going to spend between $5,000 and $15,000 to get a patent. $5,000 to $15,000 to get this patent. Now, a couple of years go by. What do you do with the patent? How do you get money for it? We have people coming in, a folding umbrella. Every conceivable idea, they come up with these ideas. What they don't realize is they've got to license somebody. They're not in the business of manufacturing and selling this product. They're whatever they are. So you've got to look, and my recommendation with licensing is you now look, if you have a patent application, and that takes a few years to get it approved, if you have a patent application, well, you at least have some protection. You can now look and see what type of company would be interested in selling this. It could be a retail operation, it could be Walmart, it could be a company that makes patent umbrellas. All different ways of you think of who is, when they see this thing, they say, yeah, I want it. And you write them the following letter. Dear sir, I'm enclosing patent application number blah, 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 blah. I'm interested in licensing it. If you don't get any answers, forget it. Because you can't take something and bring it to the marketplace. I say can't. I don't want you to waste your time and effort on this stuff. If you really got something that you're hot on a patent, you come in and see me and we'll talk about it. Questions? Sorry to puncture balloons. Attorneys and accountants. Oh boy. Accounting. Let's talk about accounting first. We use numbers in business in their purely Arabic sense. They're symbols. What's a 1? There you are running this business, you're busy, no sleep, worrying all night, selling, buying, sweeping the floor, doing everything possible. At the end of the month, you've made a couple of bucks. I wonder how I did that. Or the next month, you've lost a couple of bucks. When you say won or lost, it's really how much money you have in the bank, or in your cash register, or in your sock, wherever you're keeping it. The only way we can tell what we did right and what we did wrong is through what we call a spreadsheet, an accounts receivable balance sheet. Profit and loss statement is probably the biggest one. A profit and loss statement. And what we see with a profit and loss statement, and I'm not asking you to learn how to do one. What I am saying is you can't disregard it and you can't say, what does the accountant say? Because you must know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong with your company. Otherwise, you don't know what to change. You're always doing changes. Never doing it as good as it can be. You're really worried about, was that right? I really want to say we don't know what we're doing. That's the thing you got to get used to. Does anybody remember when Coca-Cola came out with New Coke? Quite a few years ago. They came out with New Coke. I don't know how many millions of dollars they spent on it. It lasted 79 days and then they had to pull it from the marketplace. Nobody was buying it. Nobody knows why. Before that, Ford Motor came out with a car called the Edsel, named after Henry's son or grandson, I don't remember which. I don't know how much money they spent putting out a new automobile. 4 years and they had to pull it from the marketplace. Nobody was buying it. We don't know why. Every year, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Lever Brothers, they all come out with new products. Half of them fail. We don't know what we're doing, but we gotta try. Has anybody ever seen an ugly baby? Have you seen an ugly baby?
No.
Do you think there are such things as ugly babies?
No.
There are no ugly babies. Anybody disagree with it? That there might be some ugly babies out there? You disagree with it. There are ugly babies. If we saw an ugly baby, would we tell the mother her baby was ugly? No. She wouldn't believe us anyway. So the problem is, we don't know whether we've got a beautiful baby or an ugly baby. But we have to try. The trick is to say, not will this work, the trick is to say, how much do we want to invest in time and money to see if we have an ugly baby or a beautiful baby. We don't know what we're doing is the biggest thing, but I'm watching TV 2 o'clock one morning, and some guy is interviewing one of these Silicon Valley geniuses, and the interviewer says, what question do you ask prospective new employees? The guy came back and said, I asked them to tell me their biggest failure. If it's not big enough, I won't hire them. Now, what we do in business is fail. If we don't fail, we've missed opportunities. The trick is not to try it. The trick is to try it and look and see, what are we doing? Is this thing working or isn't it working? When we start, I recommend, how much money are you ready to spend on your new business? Just test it. How much?
$50,000.
50,000? A lot of money. How much time in months?
50,000 per month.
Oh, that's too much money.
Yeah, for the real estate.
You ready to lose $50,000 just like that? You should be giving the talk. No, I think it's too much. I think it's too much. We don't have to. Generally, $5,000 or $10,000 for 3 months will tell us, is this thing worth continuing or is it dead wrong? We're trying to find out. We're looking at what we're doing like this. Do we have an ugly baby or do we have a beautiful baby? We don't know. We're going to try it, but we're going to protect ourselves because you start and you spend $10,000, let's say, in 3 months of your time. That's enough to test. If it takes you longer, you're in trouble. There's something wrong. So you got $10,000 in 3 months. What's going to happen at the end of 3 months, or 10,000, whichever works quicker, you're going to say, I need a little more time. Everybody does. So now you say, I need another 3 months, another $10,000. 6 months have gone by. You spend $20,000. Whether you actually spend cash or you spend your time, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, if at the end of 6 months, or $20,000, this thing is not moving, it may not be profitable, but you can see it's growing. If you don't see anything happening, guess what? You got an ugly baby. Go try something else. You're all going to try it because you got a fire in your belly. You want to do this thing. Welcome to the club. It's the only country where you can do it. Go do it. You're going to borrow the money, you're going to do something or other, and if this one doesn't work, you're going to try another one. You don't have a choice because you're here today. You're going to try something. Go do it. But beware of what you're doing. Okay. Stock ownership. The difference between stock ownership and, well, what's the difference between a loan and an investment? You want to tell me the difference? We hear both these words used regularly. I have a friend who's going to invest. I have a friend who's going to make a loan. When you go to the bank, don't think that you're going to be able to just borrow the money just like that. They're going to ask you what kind of stocks, bonds, or real estate that you have. If you've got enough, they'll lend you the money, and you're going to pledge that. People think that a corporation is a shield. When you borrow from a commercial lender, you sign what's called a personal guarantee, or he will lend you the money. So whether you pay or not, he'll bypass the corporation and take your house. So a loan is an amount of money that is made which will be paid back at a certain time with a certain rate of interest. Therefore, if this is what a bank does, or a lending agency does. Now, it doesn't make any difference whether you have come up with another Google and now this is worth millions of dollars. The lender doesn't get any more than he lent. And it's got to be paid back at a certain period of time. An investor, never gets his money back. Never gets his money back. An investor is betting that you're going to take this company and turn it into Google. And at some point in time in the future, nobody knows what, that person will be able to sell his stock to this other third party and make a killing. Beware when you borrow or speak to family and friends. I had a young woman come in one day who wanted to buy a gas station in North Carolina. Fine, you looked at the gas station. Where did you find this gas station? On the internet. Have you ever seen it? No. Have you ever run a gas station? No. Is this gas station making a profit or a loss? I don't know. Well, how much is it going to cost you? $400,000. And I see, and you have $100,000? No, I'm going to borrow it. Where are you going to borrow it? I'm going to borrow it from my mother and father. Oh, they must be very wealthy. No. They're first generation immigrants, and this is all the money they've got. Beware when you borrow from family or friends. You've got to pay it back, or morally you're in a very difficult position. Fortunately, I think I stopped this young lady. I'm not sure. I never saw her again. So know what you're doing to a little bit. Control. I think I've touched upon this. Any questions, by the way? Okay. Control. I mentioned a corporate partnership. The problem is specified. Let's talk about a legal agreement for a moment. What is a legal agreement? A legal agreement can be a letter, and what it really, the purpose is to show what each party to the agreement is expected to do to contribute, and what happens when they don't. So it clearly defines what each person, each party to the agreement does, and what happens when they do not do it. So now we've got well, control, we talk about the 50-50 I mentioned. That's a corporation, a Type C New York State corporation, which you can do yourself for a couple $100. So now you own 51% of this corporation, and you get into a fight with one of the other stockholders. What happens? What happens? You and this great big friend are in a disagreement on what to do with the company. What happens? You don't have a friend anymore. That's what happens. You're the boss. It's an interesting position to be into. All I'm trying to do is advise you. I give you all the dark side of everything. Not necessarily means that you're going to fail. Because it doesn't make any difference if I tell you you're going to fail anyway, because you're going to do it. So my job is to try and advise you on the booby traps, on the pitfalls, on the dangers, and where to focus. And let's talk about what is the most important thing. I think any other questions? One other thing, I have the last line on here, it's called risk aversion and doing more research. This really I run into with the IT guys, the computer guys. They come up with these new computer businesses. Have you ever spoken to a customer? What? Speak to a customer? The idea, I'm just going to put it up on the web, and people are going to go flocking to me. I won't go into why that doesn't work. All right. Types of business formats. The next thing. I've covered that. A sole proprietorship, a partnership, even though I don't like it, and a corporation. Any questions? I would be very careful. If you don't have any assets to worry about, I I would do a doing business as a sole proprietorship for 120 bucks. Do it and see what happens. You want to spend the least amount of money in startup because the risk is so great. It's not taking anything away from you, it's the fact of the law, the fact of life. What you're trying to do is get customers. How to register a corporation in New York State. It's incredibly simple. It tells you right here how to do it. You can do it in Queens. You can do it in New York City. I don't know. Probably depending. Where's are you talking about Suffolk?
Suffolk.
Where's your where is the main state?
Riverhead.
It'll be in Riverhead. In City Hall, I would go to Riverhead City Hall. By the way, you will hear talk about, I'm going to do something in Delaware or Yugoslavia or somewhere else. You must register in New York State because that's where you're doing business. Do not worry about taxes. You do not make any decision based on this. It's less taxes or more taxes. That's not your problem. Maybe if you're incredibly lucky, you'll make a profit that you have to pay taxes on. But don't worry about that. I hear people, I want to do this, I want a limited liability company in Delaware. It doesn't make any difference because you're doing business in New York State. You must register in New York State. If you've registered in Delaware and you're doing business in New York State, you've got to file in New York State as a foreign corporation and pay in 2 states. I want to talk about the most important thing. Where are we? How much more time do I have?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. 2 minutes for the most important thing is enough. Marketing, I'm talking about customers. Believe it or not, that's the key of success. Customers. Everybody believes that because they've got such a wonderful idea, they don't have to worry about customers. Not true. It's amazing. I've been doing this for 17 years in New York City. I did it for 5 years all over the world for the U.S. government as a business advisor from Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan to Bangkok, Thailand. And it's always the same problem, sales. So, marketing, people use instead of sales, but it's different. And I'll describe marketing to you, which is the first step. Who is my customer? The customer is the one whose money you get. That's we're in business, to get the guy's money. And not only that, we're interested in getting his money the first time, but we've got to treat him as such that we get him again. We've got to get a repeat customer. Let's say there are 50 million beer bellies in the United States. None of them are Budweiser customers. They don't give Budweiser any money. They are users. Do not confuse user with customer. Customer is the one who pays you money. Now that I keep talking about money, 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 it's not because I'm greedy. If you don't make money, you don't stay in business because you make mistakes. The only thing that pays for the mistakes is additional revenues. So we've got, well, who are Budweiser's customers then? Budweiser's customers are taverns, restaurants, supermarkets. They are the people that pay Budweiser money. So we've got to make sure we understand. The interesting thing is people like to make, oh, anybody can buy my product. It works out that that's the worst possible idea you can have. You've got to focus on a narrow rifle shot approach. More is not better, less is better, and I will explain it as I get on. So who is my customer? Number 2, what does she want? She may not know what she wants until you present it to her. She says, yeah, I want that. Do not believe you can create a need. That's a blah, blah idea. You've got to present something that somebody wants. Number 3, how much will she pay? It's not necessarily cheapest. There's Tiffany selling a diamond ring for $10,000, and 3 blocks south, the guy is selling the same thing for $7,000. In all cases, you set your price as much as you can get. As much as you can get. It is not, all that you have to know is it's more than your cost. But don't come in and say, my cost is this, and I'm going to add 37% because that's what the industry does. You don't know what you're going to do. You got to look at your competition and see what the competition is charging. If you're cheaper, it might not work. What message do I give to get them to buy or switch? This is called the elevator pitch. You're in the elevator and somebody walks in and says, "Now what do you do?" And while you're trying to get out the answer, the second floor door opens and they get out. You're at a cocktail party. And somebody says, "Now what do you do?" And while you're talking, the blonde walks by. You'll pardon me, ladies, but it's always the blonde. The blonde walks by and you just lost the customer. 30 seconds. What do I do? What is my product and why you should buy it? So that's called the, what message do I give to him to make him buy or switch? And then we talk about the media. Media. Media is content that people will want to read or listen to. TV is the football games. These are content that many people watch, and people who are selling products will pay the media for their use. Let's take a couple of, this is a little complicated, I'm not explaining it very well. Let's take a situation, guy makes camping tents in Hoboken, New Jersey. It's him, his wife, and his sister-in-law with a sewing machine. He makes good camping tents. How do you sell camping tents in Hoboken, New Jersey? Stand on a street corner, hand out letters. Work the subway stops or bus stops. Advertise in the Hoboken News. Too expensive because media charges on the number of people who get that message. They're going to, the whole people will in circulation. You'll find a magazine called Outdoor Living. Circulation of only 200,000, which is, so they can't charge much, $50 for a classified ad, and keep running that ad, and keep running that ad. And after a while, people say, "I need a camping tent, there's some guy in the back of the book." And you go find him and buy it, and be able to build up his business to the point where he can add knapsacks. I was paying $100 a month. He's got knapsacks and camping tents. The year goes by, he's got a full page. He's got an 800 number. He's got a fulfillment house, so he doesn't have any inventory. And he's working, and he's got a business. Then he can do what's called e-commerce. You go to his website. I don't know, do I have enough time? You want to hear about websites? Yeah? You don't care. You want to hear? Yeah. People say, "I'm going to put it on the web." I'm going to give you some numbers which are from my memory, which is faulty. When Google started out, their bots, which are these robots that roam the entire web, Google's bots covered 50% of the web pages on the entire internet when they started. So today they must be something like 80 or 90%. Billions and billions and billions of web pages they're looking at. So now we say we're putting up a web page. Well, let me digress. There are 5 million square miles in Siberia. 48% covered by trees. Now, I don't know how many trees that are, but it's a lot of trees. When you put up a website, you're putting up a tree in Siberia. So when you think you're going to get business by putting up a website, business do you think you might be interested in? Let's say it's selling perfume. What would somebody put in if they wanted perfume? They go to Google and they put in perfume, New York, a certain brand name. What people do, put that in and test what your theory is. And what you're going to find is look at the top left-hand corner, little numbers that shows how many pages Google came back with. I've never found one that's less than 1 million. So then people say, oh, we're going to use SEO, search engine optimization. So does your competition. They know search engine optimization. You are on page 36, and there is no way in hell people are going to find your website, which means you must use an alternate media to find, to deliver your message, just like that little guy with camping tents did. Let's take another media situation. Well, let's say a guy gets a bargain in telescopes. It's a beautiful telescope designed to sell for $1,500. It's one minor problem. The manufacturer failed of it only looks for 4 miles. Where do you sell a $1,500 telescope that looks for 4 miles? It's a very smart guy. He needs a media, so he goes to American Express Platinum card holders. Means they're the wealthy piece. He gets a zip code sorted list, north of 34th Street, south of 86th Street, and east of the park. Just people who live, this is a very wealthy area. There are 5,000 such names, cost them $5,000, $1 a head. By the way, you can buy a mailing list of anything you want. Go on what's called mailing list brokers. You buy a couple to test, and you can target exactly who you're trying to reach. So he says, if they live there, they live high up. They're wealthy. If they live high up, they may have a view of the river or the park, which is within 4 miles, which means they can buy my telescope. So now I've got my customer. What media do I use to reach him? I'm going to make my own media. I'm going to take some pictures from high up, beautiful pictures showing the view of the park and the river and all these beautiful views. 4-page color brochure costing me $3 a piece. I'm going to mail it for $1 a piece, spend $25,000, and get a 1.5% return. If it works, it's a reasonable amount of money to risk. If it works, most cities have some kind of geographical center. He's got a business.